Every person has experienced procrastination. There are tasks we know we should do, decisions we know we should make, and responsibilities that quietly wait for our attention. Yet instead of acting, the mind delays. We tell ourselves we will begin tomorrow, or later in the evening, or when we feel more motivated. Days pass, sometimes weeks, and the task remains unfinished. Procrastination is not simply laziness. In many cases, it is the mind's attempt to escape discomfort. We avoid difficult work, uncertain outcomes, and the possibility of failure. The mind searches for easier distractions, checking messages, watching videos, or endlessly planning instead of acting. But more than 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers recognized this tendency of the human mind. They understood that the greatest obstacle to a meaningful life is not external difficulty, but hesitation within ourselves. The Stoics believe that time is the most valuable resource a human being possesses. Once a moment passes, it cannot be recovered. For this reason, they developed a philosophy centered on discipline, purposeful action, and respect for the limited time given to us. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively about this idea. He observed that people are often careful with money and possessions, yet careless with their time. They allow hours and days to disappear without reflection, as if life were endless. Yet the Stoic view is clear. Life is not endless. Time moves forward quietly and continuously, whether we act or delay. Understanding this truth changes the way we approach procrastination. For the Stoics, every day is an opportunity that will never appear again. When we delay meaningful work or postpone important decisions, we are not merely moving a task to the future. We are spending a portion of our life. This realization creates a powerful sense of urgency, but not the kind that leads to anxiety. Instead, it leads to clarity. When time is seen as precious, action becomes more natural. Another reason Stoics rarely procrastinated lies in their understanding of control. One of the central teachings of Stoicism is the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. This principle, often called the dichotomy of control, teaches that our actions, decisions, and attitudes are within our power, while many external outcomes are not. Procrastination often appears when we worry about results. We imagine failure, criticism, or uncertainty. The mind becomes so focused on potential outcomes that it hesitates to begin. But the Stoic approach is different. The Stoics believe that our responsibility is not to guarantee success, but simply to act with discipline and integrity. The result of our efforts may depend on many external factors, but the decision to begin belongs entirely to us. When a focus shifts from results to action, procrastination loses much of its power. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus often reminded his students that a person's character is revealed through their actions, not their intentions. Many people have good intentions. They plan, they imagine, they promise themselves they will act in the future. But the Stoics valued something far more important: immediate and deliberate action. They understood that motivation is unreliable. Waiting to feel inspired before beginning a task often leads to endless delay. Instead of waiting for the perfect mood, Stoics trained themselves to act according to reason and duty. This discipline allowed them to move forward even when tasks felt uncomfortable or difficult. Another Stoic technique for overcoming procrastination involves simplifying the task before us. The mind often exaggerates the size of a challenge. A project appears overwhelming, and the mind reacts by avoiding it entirely. But Stoic practice encourages us to break large responsibilities into smaller, manageable actions. Instead of worrying about completing an entire project, the Stoic approach is to focus on the first step. What is the next small action that can be taken right now? By directing attention toward immediate action rather than distant completion, the mind becomes less intimidated and more willing to begin. The Roman emperor and Stoic thinker Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to return to the present task. In his reflections, he advised himself not to become distracted by unnecessary thoughts about the future or by worries about how difficult something might be. Instead, He encouraged himself to do the work of the moment. This simple discipline, focusing entirely on the task at hand, remains one of the most effective remedies for procrastination. The Stoics also practiced a powerful mental exercise that helps overcome hesitation. They often imagined looking back on their lives from the perspective of old age. From that distant point, many of the excuses that justify procrastination begin to appear trivial. The question becomes clear: will this delay matter when years have passed? In most cases, the answer is no. What will matter instead is whether we acted with courage and discipline when the opportunity was present. This perspective helps restore a sense of urgency and responsibility. Another important Stoic insight about procrastination is the understanding that discomfort is not something to be feared. Many tasks feel difficult simply because they require effort, but effort itself is not harmful. In fact, the Stoics believed that challenges strengthen the mind. Just as physical resistance builds strength in the body, disciplined effort builds resilience in the mind. When we avoid discomfort, we weaken our ability to face future challenges. But when we willingly engage with difficult tasks, we develop confidence and inner strength. Over time, the mind begins to associate action with growth rather than with stress. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of daily reflection. At the end of each day, they would quietly review their actions and decisions. They would ask themselves whether they had used their time wisely or allowed unnecessary distractions to take control. This practice created awareness. When we observe our habits honestly, it becomes easier to recognize patterns of procrastination and correct them. The purpose of reflection was not self-criticism, but improvement. Each day offered a chance to act with greater discipline than the day before. In the modern world, procrastination often appears in subtle forms. It hides behind constant notifications, endless scrolling, and the illusion of productivity through planning rather than doing. The Stoic solution remains remarkably simple. Return to purposeful action. Begin the task. Focus on the next step. Do the work that lies directly in front of you. By practicing these principles consistently, procrastination begins to lose its influence. The Stoics did not claim that discipline comes easily. Like physical strength, mental discipline must be trained through repetition. But over time, something remarkable happens. The mind becomes less dependent on comfort and more committed to purpose. Action becomes natural. Delay becomes unnecessary. In the end, the reason Stoics rarely procrastinate is not because they possess extraordinary motivation. It is because they understand the value of time, the importance of action, and the power of disciplined thought. When we begin to see time, as the Stoics did, as a limited and precious resource, our relationship with work and responsibility changes. We stop waiting for the perfect moment, and we begin to act.